Oh, good morning, my friends. Welcome. Look at you guys popping on. Hi, Sammy. Beth, good morning. Brittany, hello. Sonia, hi. Tony, hello. Ray, Hannah, welcome, you guys. Hey, Ray, I saw that you did a little message in there to one of our new moms. Thank you for that. That was so sweet. I could tell that that was helpful to her. I love it. Hi, Natalie. I love it when you guys go in and just encourage the other moms in this group, which is what this group is for. So thank you. Thank you for being supportive, loving women who have got each other's back. That is so fun to see. Hi, Lizzie. Good morning, Kelly. Hey, Trish. So are you guys all East Coasters? How many of you are Pacific Coasters and are like up early? Or is everybody an East Coaster? Tell me where you're from. East, middle, central. Let's find out where everybody is. Happy Tuesday. Welcome, welcome. Yes, yesterday's live is recorded. We'll post all three once they're all done. Massachusetts, North Carolina, South Carolina, New Hampshire. Y'all are East Coasters. Heather, am I supposed to be putting something? Oh, I forgot to enter the studio. How was I supposed to do that? Sorry, StreamYard. I forgot to enter the studio of StreamYard. Got music going. Okay. Iowa, Illinois. Did you guys hear that? Okay. Can you hear me okay? Do we have our mic? I never know if this is working well. We good? Good morning. Good morning, my East Coasters. Yes, good. Okay. Sound is good. Good, good, good. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for letting me know. Welcome. I am Instagram. I don't know if it's YouTube on there too. Don't know. Anyway, didn't matter. I got my ladies here in Mighty Networks, our group, our clan of amazing women. You know, I have to say, if ever I were more proud to be a part of a group of women, it's you guys. Like, homeschool moms for the win. Anyway, good morning. Welcome to My Homeschool Village's webinar this morning. We are talking today about the how. Is it how? I keep getting confused because you know when you go who, what, when, where, how, right? And I actually mixed them up. So yesterday we talked about the why. Why do we homeschool? We talked about 3 things that we homeschool. If you missed it, don't worry. We're going to post the recording here in Mighty Networks and you can get that. If you're not in Mighty Networks, you are more than welcome to go in and sign up. The group itself is free. Morning, Lori. You're here. Good. So yesterday we talked about why we homeschool and why it's important that you start with that why. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that TED Talk by Simon Sinek, one of my favorites. Start with your why. Well, it inspired me my whole life. And I realized that I need to start with my why more often. Yesterday, we talked about the why, 3 whys we homeschool. Number one is for my children to have a close relationship with God. Number 2 is so that we have a close relationship as a family. And number 3 is so that our children can develop personally their talents, their skills on a personal level. So now today, we're going to talk about how to do that. Okay. We're going to talk about exactly what a day looks like in order to make those things happen. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the literal things I use, like actual curriculums, actual programs, actual math, reading, writing. Okay, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Today, we're going to talk about like the schedule. What does your day look like to inspire your children to have a relationship with God, to inspire strength as a family, to inspire your children to find their own talents and interests? And this, I think, is one of the hardest things to do when we start homeschooling because we come from the public school system. Most of us came from the public school system. And in our heads, we think 8 to 5 or even 8 to 3, right? That should be the schedule. And we've got children home all day long. What else are we going to do with them? And so there's this pressure of, I've got to teach my kids all day long. And then the homeschoolers come out and say, no, you don't, 1 or 2 hours. And then you're thinking, then what am I going to do with my kids all day? Right? So we're going to talk about that. Then you hear the things about unschooling. How many of you have heard or want or like are an unschooler or would like to know what unschooling is? And unschooling has its own mix of what that looks like. Okay. I would consider myself a combo And we're going to talk about that. So unschooling for many just means follow your child's interests. Well, for a lot of parents, that causes a lot of stress. What do you mean follow my child's interest? I don't want my child to be running this household, right? And so we're going to talk about what that means and how to make that work. So let's get digging in. Now, I promised you a PDF of our how or our whys yesterday. I'm going to give them all to you at the end tomorrow afternoon. The reason is because I got another PDF for you today. Okay, it's going to be our homeschool roadmap, and it's because what I'm talking about is all in there today. So let's dig in. All right, now we're going to talk about what does a week look like. Okay, a typical homeschool week of someone who wants to keep God number one, family, relationships, and your children's interests as our why. And this is what this looks like. Monday morning, guys. Number one, I never wake up my children unless we have to be somewhere, right? If we're getting on a plane, they're getting woken up. But if I don't have to, I do not wake up my children. And here is why. And I find this to be the number one determiner of whether or not you're going to have a stressful day, because you don't know when your children are going through a growth spurt. Okay. When they're little, they're waking you up. You love my shirt? Thank you. I do too. This is my favorite. I know. I think we need to get some. We actually used to have some, and we'll get into that later. But anyway, so our children, need sleep. They need sleep. They are growing, and we don't know when the next growth spurt happens. So what I've discovered after 20 years and 5 kids, girls and boys, is that each child is going through a growth spurt at different times, and I don't necessarily know when that is. Teenagers struggle with sleep at night. They really struggle with sleep at night. I have discovered that all of my kids go through a phase where their hormones are changing, where they're not sleeping at night, and I don't know because I'm asleep. And so they're sleeping in to make up for I couldn't sleep until 1 o'clock. And it's not their fault, you guys. Don't get after your teens because they can't fall asleep until 1 o'clock. Just make sure they have a good book and no phone. Okay, make sure there's no tech in their room. We don't want them getting into yucky stuff, but make sure they have a book or something that they can do. He's nodding his head. Yes. My teens are like, Mom, you don't understand. I toss and turn all night. And I'm like, we've tried melatonin. We've tried sleep studies. We've tried Benadryl. We've tried all kinds of things to get our teenagers to sleep. But what I've learned is they grow out of it. So our teenagers do toss and turn at night, and that's why they sleep in the morning. My teenagers do not start their homeschool day until noon, and that's okay. So what that does is it allows you time with your younger kids while they are up to get some one-on-one with them. So let your teenagers sleep. I would find during the teenagers that our kids would sleep, and then all of a sudden, and then they'd still need a nap, and then still go to bed, and they have these funky schedules. And I found that once I let it just happen, their bodies just do this. They do grow out of it, and they do need to sleep when they need to sleep. And I have found that when I allow that to happen, all of a sudden one day they wake up and they're like 3 inches taller, and I got to buy new pants. So this happens over and over again during the teen years. Now let's talk about the early years, because a lot of you don't have teenagers yet. So let's talk about those early years. Same thing. Little ones go through growth spurts too. It may not be as intense. Preteens. It starts at about 12. So 12 to 16 is a rough 4 years while they're doing this. Okay. Now your toddlers are doing the same thing. Your toddlers, and even if you're interested in reading the book, it's called Happy Sleep Habits, Happy Child. I recommend it for every parent. If you have a baby, if you have a toddler, if you have a teenager, you need the book, Happy Sleep Habits, Happy Child. I read this when my children were young. It made me a sleep Nazi, as my friends call me, because sleep's vital, period. Make sure they're getting the sleep they need, because if not, everything else is out the window. Okay. Do not question. And in the world says, get your kids up. They're being lazy. No, they're growing. They are growing. Their brains are growing. And what I found is that extra sleep alone will make them learn better when they're awake. So make sure they're getting that sleep, number one. So we don't wake up our kids. Now, this can make mornings a little more difficult because there's no schedule. So here's our rhythms. We don't schedule, okay? Throw away your clocks, guys. If you're homeschooling and you are watching and your children by a clock, you are giving yourself a headache. Clocks our bodies do not respond to clocks. They don't. They respond to sun rotation. They respond to when the sun comes up and when the sun goes down. They respond to the natural pulls and rhythms of the earth and its axis. It doesn't, your body could care less what that clock says. So throw away your clock, let your children get up when they get up, and here's the rhythm you're going to follow, okay? After they get up, they need some time to wake up. Just like us, we don't want to get up and go. I don't know about you guys. I get up and I go work out, but it takes me a minute, right? So they get up, they play. When they're little, they play. They just kind of discover the world. Let them play until they're done. Sometimes that'll be an hour. They're hungry. They're done. It's time to feed them. That's fine. You let them play until it's time to feed them breakfast. They'll let you know because you'll hear the little grumpies coming on, right? Let them play. I actually, at one point when my kids were little, I actually started setting out, after they'd go to bed at night, I would pull out a toy that I didn't let them have just whenever, like special toys like the Magna Blocks or a special art something, and I would just leave it out. Something that they could play with without me. I would just leave it out to buy me an extra half hour in bed. So they would come up and be like, oh, new toy, and they would play so well. And then sometimes I'd even leave a snack out on the counter that I was okay with them eating just to buy me an extra 30 minutes of sleep, especially when I had newborns. Old trick for you if you haven't tried that yet. So you let them play. This is great learning time. When they're playing, they are learning how to organize their own time, how to solve problems. It's a confidence builder. Let them do it. It's vital to their brains, okay? When they are hungry and ready for breakfast, you feed them. And after breakfast, notice, I didn't say if this is at 10 a.m. or 6 a.m., okay? After breakfast, get out math. This is when you get out math, reading, writing, math, right then. And it's like, okay, it's learning time. We've had breakfast. It's learning time. This is when you do the things that mom requires. Reading, writing, math. Once they've got the reading, writing, math down, my kids still do their reading, writing, math. It's breakfast, reading, writing, math, homework time. My older children now do their entire schedule of everything that must be done. Okay, they're type C, they're everything. My little kids, it was reading, writing, math. And I would set them up so I could work one-on-one, or we would all get math. I would get out a math book myself for me. Highly recommended you get yourself a math book. They're on Amazon. Grab one. You sit down, and what you're teaching your children is it's math time. We're all learning math, even mommy. When mommy, and what they're going is, oh, mom learns math. Mom's still learning math. And what you're showing them is, it doesn't matter how old mommy is, I'm still learning math. It's an example set. They get theirs out next to you. Now, you may or may not ever get to touch that math page. If they're working quietly, do a math page. Re-educate yourself, you guys. Hi, Amanda. Re-educate yourself. It's a beautiful thing. I went all the way back through elementary, junior high, and high school with my first couple of kids, and I re-educated myself, and I found out I was smarter than I thought I was. Thank you, public school. Do the math with your kids. Then pull out journals. Journaling time. And write. Now, your little ones who don't yet write, let them scribble. Your middle ones who are only doing letters, let them do the letters. Your other ones who are just doing maybe a sentence, they can copy work. Get out something they can copy. Everybody writes now. Now, if you need to switch it up, you're doing math while you're writing so that you can work with this child while this child's doing something independently, you can do that. But this is after breakfast learning time. After breakfast, we all learn. We're fresh. We can do new concepts. We do this until we're done. Now, hopefully, when they're little, we sit down and we're like, okay, let's just all do this. And when I can see in their faces that they're starting to fidget, not paying attention, I'll swap it up a little bit. And so they're working on this, okay? You get your journal. Now you journal, they journal. The best thing you can have your children do in writing is journaling. The best, because they get to write about whatever the heck they want to write about. Now, your little ones who are learning to write, you might be practicing letters with them. But the older ones who can now write full sentences should be journaling. Number one, it's history. They're recording their own history. And guess what? It actually counts as history. Number two, they are actually learning how to take a thought and put it down. Now, you are not going to go over the journals with grammar and spelling. No, you're going to just let them write freely. This is their writing freely time. And you'll discover that they will ask you how to spell words. They will ask you how to do it right. As they're learning to read, they'll start to put the things together. Okay. Don't panic about the writing and reading. Here's a little secret I learned about language learning. Okay. And I learned this because I learned Spanish in my 20s. So when I was 21, I went to Bogota, Colombia, lived there for a couple of years as a missionary, and I learned Spanish. Well, what I discovered is I could speak it. Okay. I picked it up in about 4 or 6 months, and then I was fluent and I could speak it. I've now been speaking Spanish for over 20 years, and I still struggle writing it. I don't practice it. However, it took me years to learn to read and write it. It was a whole different concept. It's a whole different skill level. So your children going to need more time on that reading, writing. Don't panic. Some kids take longer than others. So you're going to do your reading, writing, math in the morning, okay, right after breakfast. Now, if your kids are under the age of 8, this is going to be a 30-minute deal. If your kids are 8 to 12, it should be about an hour deal. If your kids are 12 and up, it's probably a 2-hour deal, okay? So then when they're done, and you let them know when you're done, after you've told them what, do a page here, do 5 whatever here, you may go play. You can go do something else. They go do something else, you're making lunch, okay? And yes, sometimes you're doing snacks in the middle of this, and I'll have carrots or grapes right in the middle of the table while they're doing this so that they'll keep going. Now, then you're going to do lunch after all of this, right? Little playtime, a little lunch. After lunch is quiet time. Here is why quiet time is vital for you and your children. I don't care how old they are. I don't care if they're 2, because now we all know little ones need that nap time, right? They're going to need that nap time. You're going to need the rest. You need a break from your children for a minimum of 1 hour. So our rule was, it is now quiet time. You are now on your bed with a book or without a book, but you're on your bed for 1 hour. You may sleep, you may read, you may lay there quietly. Those are your options. Anyone who disturbs mom is getting a second job today. Literally, this is what we did. And I would sometimes even hear my children, if I fell asleep, especially because newborns, guys, we need our rest, okay? So sometimes I would even hear my kids like to each other's rooms. Shh, don't wake up, mom. She'll put us to work. So, and as long as they were quiet, I pretended I didn't hear. But this is mom's time. Now, if they're not going to be good in there, you do have to create, right, some sort of consequence, and they will learn it very quickly. That quiet time is vital. I learned this from my mother, actually. My mother was a full-time working mom. However, in the summer, she was home with us, and she had us do this quiet time as kids. Number 1, a child who doesn't love to read, but has to sit for 1 hour on their bed every day, and the only thing in front of them is a book, will learn to pick up the book. And I know this from personal experience because that was me. I didn't want to read. I had no interest in reading, but my mom took us to the library every week, and I did grab books. I think it was Nancy Drew was what I first started. And when I was laying on that bed for an hour staring at the ceiling, the boredom got too much. And I started picking up that book I got at the library, and I started reading, and I fell in love with reading. That hour of you have to do nothing but lay on that bed or read will pique a child's interest in reading faster than anything because of the boredom and no other options. Make sure there's no tech in that room. This works for all ages. So they have that hour. Okay. After that hour, after quiet time. Oh, the other thing about this, my mother always made sure that she put that hour during our Sunday church time. So if church was at noon on Sundays, she made sure that quiet hour was at noon for the rest of the week. She said what she did is her intent was to train us to be quiet during church. So she taught us, and it worked. Like, we got comments all the time when we were little in church that, boy, we were well behaved. Well, it's because my mother had us so trained that that was the hour that we sat quietly with the book. And so we would go to church and we would sit and just draw or something very quietly. There were 5 of us little ones, and she had done that for us all week long. And so by Sunday, we were trained to sit quietly. So if you don't go to church, you don't need this. If you go to church, you're struggling with children who sit still, try this. Okay. It gives you an hour away from your children. Sometimes I would fall asleep. I would set a timer so my kids knew when an hour was up in case I fell asleep, especially if I had a little one that I was taking a nap with. And this is vital to get your little ones those naps they need, right? And so I would set that timer and say, okay, when the hour's up, you can get up. But if you wake up mommy, it's time to get back to work. So they were very good at letting me sleep, especially when I was really pregnant. So nap time. After nap time, it is free time. This is the time when they are developing their talents and their skills. This is the time when they get to pick what they want to do with that time. Now, what if your child comes to you and says, I'm bored? Okay, number one, boredom is not your problem to solve. Repeat after me, mamas. Boredom is not my problem. And this is where you have to teach your children. It didn't take long, but they would come to say, Mom, I'm bored. Awesome. The bathroom needs clean. Now, I did not do this like frivolously. It was not like the bathroom needs clean. And they're like, never mind, he, and go. No. The first time they came to me bored and they were old enough to understand what that meant, I literally made them clean the bathroom because they had to see that the word bored meant work. So it became I can choose for you or you can choose for you. And they very quickly went back and found their own things to do. This is where they started to discover their interests. I had one child who just started out in origami. She is now she's in her 20s and she is quite the little girl working with things on her hands. I have one child who does Legos. He's 17, he's still building Legos in a much cooler way than he did when he was little, but he still gets that quiet time. I have one daughter who's a painter and loves to draw. I have another one who will just sketch, loves sketching. Each one has something like this. And it all started because they had that free time and it was either clean the bathroom or figure something out. Now, I've always made sure that they had all the art supplies they could want. We have invested in Legos for this. We have invested in all kinds of things. They built tree houses during this time. If they wanted to go outside and play together, that was fine. If they wanted to play downstairs, this was building fort time. Okay. Your children, this is family build time. Some days they would go to their individual rooms and work on something on their desk, puzzles. Some days they would work together on something. And this is where their relationships built. So much so that my teenagers the other day, well, I say teenagers, they're actually adults now. They're in their 20s and they were sitting around laughing and making fun of mom that they knew if they came to me and said, I'm bored, that they would be put to work. So my son tells me, so mom, we just went and played and showed you. And I was like, oh, you showed me. And they even say how much they loved those afternoon times together. Now, if you don't have multiple children that can play together, and I don't care how far apart they are in age, they can play together. If you have only the one child, okay, this is still alone time. It is to teach a child that being alone is a beautiful thing, that being alone is a time to do something for yourself. And this is something that now as an adult will make them healthy. I don't need to be around people. I just need to figure out what I can do with my brain. And this is where you're teaching your children confidence. I mean, how many of us would have loved to have learned that instead of being taught that being alone is a bad thing? We're being taught that being alone is beautiful. Enjoy it. Do something with that time. Okay. So this is all what's happening in this afternoon time from breakfast or from quiet time to dinner. So it's creative time. Now, we even had a deal with my kids. Sometimes I would get in the house is a mess. Notice I haven't cleaned the house yet today. Okay, I'm going to put that in there in a minute. We haven't cleaned yet. The house is a mess at this point. The kids all have their projects all over the house. We've done our schooling. They've been playing all day. We haven't, other than maybe clean up your mess before we move on, right? Sometimes the house is just a pigsty at this point. That's okay because we had a deal. If I started to get annoyed and I'd be like, Alexa, come down here and clean up your stuff. I promise not to interrupt their quiet time, their creative time. We call it the creative time. I promise not to interrupt that because I have a lot of ADHD kids. And when they would get in the zone, and I'm this way too. Once you're in that zone, to be ripped out of it to do something else, you can't get back in the zone. And to truly be in creativity, to truly find out your talents and gifts, you have to be able to get in that zone. So our children, this was zone time. If the kids, sometimes they could get into it, sometimes they couldn't. But if they were in the zone, I promised not to interrupt. And when I forgot, we had a code word. I would say, guys, hey, Alexa, come do this. She would say, in creative mode, mom, or I'm in the zone. And I'd go, sorry. And so in our house, we have an I'm in the zone password. It means not now. I am in a zone. Don't pull me out. I will be grumpy. And so we talk about that. My husband and I too, when we're working, my kids will come up and go, are you in the zone? And they can see my focus. They're like, I'll talk to you later. Good job. because they get a no when they get me in the zone. They get a yes if they get me out of the zone. And so they will wait for that zone. But I respect that zone for them. It's vital that you respect that zone. That is when true learning is happening. Okay. Not just skills, not just subjects they're learning. This is true learning for their talents and their skills. So by doing this, you've done, this is what your day looks like. After creative time, this somewhere around 4 o'clock maybe, it would be like, hey guys, house clean time. We're going to blitz this house. We're all going to work together. We would turn on the music. We would get the house clean in 30 minutes, but it would be top to bottom. You got a bathroom, you got the kitchen, you got this floor, you got that thing, and we just, boom, everybody cleans till the house is done, and then we make dinner. And I loved having my kids help me make dinner. As they got older, they're not doing it with me anymore, but they still will come to the counter and talk to me. So this is now mommy bonding time. Okay, dinner should always be mommy bonding time. If they want to go play, they can go play and I'll make dinner. But most often they will come to the kitchen counter and talk to me while I cook, or help me with it, or do it themselves. Now they all have assignments for cooking and cleaning in the kitchen because they're older. And I'll sit at the counter in case they need help with any of the new recipes or things like that. And it becomes kind of a work together time. Dad's home, and it just becomes this cool little kitchen family time after dinner. Okay, and however you want to do that, is reading time. And Dad would pull out books and read to them. This is when we would do scripture. This is when he would read them Harry Potter. Dad loves reading time. Dad reading time. If you have a man in your household that can read to your children at this time, I highly recommend it. I got free time. I was off. I did what I wanted to do. I read my own book. I cleaned something, whatever. And Dad would read to them, and they have fallen in love with their father's voice, to the point that his voice brings great comfort as adults. Even to this day, my 20-year-olds will come home and listen to Dad read because it just brings this comfort to them that I didn't realize we were building at the time. I just wanted some time off and I wanted them to get some books in them. We went through a lot of classics this way. We went through scriptures this way. We'll do a scripture and a classic. But that daddy reading time is probably my favorite thing we've ever done. And it has been such a bond for our kids, to the point that my husband actually, we fell in love with his voice so much. He actually got me through natural labor by reading to me, because his voice just has this deep calm. And he literally got me through natural labor with his voice because it calms us all. So highly recommend that. If you can get a man in your life to read, turn off the TV, let him read to your kids. Does this work every single night? No, it worked when we could. Okay. So after that, it's bedtime and we're done. And this works every day. Now, usually on Wednesdays, we kind of needed a switch up. And so we would get up, do the homework, and then we would head to the library. Library's open at 10. We'd try to hurry and get up, get our assignments in so we could head to the library, get a bunch of books, and then we would come home and just call it our readathon day. And we'd pop popcorn and we'd get snacks out and we'd cuddle up, especially in the winter. We'd cuddle up with our blankets and our books, and we literally just did a readathon. Sometimes I read to them, sometimes they read to themselves. And it was like, it's reading day. If you're reading, I don't bother you. But if you're going to bother the rest of us while we're reading, you're going to clean something. So, and then Thursday usually was a co-op day. Friday, we kind of, sometimes we'd do the work, sometimes we would just not. And I would let them do their computer games that day because they'd earned it. They'd worked hard. That is kind of the week in the life. And I have found that most homeschoolers kind of fall into this after a little while. Now it changes up a little bit. In winter time, we're reading a lot of books. We get a lot of our history and science done then because we're reading and reading and reading, especially history. Great. We'd do historical fiction or we'd do regular history, but we would read, and they would get a lot of history in the winter. In the summer, they get more science because they're outside more. So we've just kind of discovered that kind of happens. So it's okay. Okay, questions. Do you have questions? This is what our day, our week looks like. I didn't even look at, where are we at time? I am so sorry. I'm running behind. Okay. Throw your questions out there for me. Let me see what I can answer for you. And then we are doing another giveaway today. We're doing a year giveaway for our social club today. So make sure you comment yay. Comment yay if you want to be entered into that drawing while I'm answering these questions, okay? Hannah says, my 12-year-old has wanted to do a good portion of our dinner since we started homeschooling. It was the biggest surprise that came along with pulling her out of school. Oh my gosh, That is so cool. I actually know a homeschooler whose mom he wanted to start cooking. So he started cooking and he fell in love with it so much that he went to college to be a chef and a nutrition, what is it called? Basically, he helps to he's a nutritional scientist or something now. And it all started because he fell in love with cooking at like 12 for the family. I recommend all your children are cooking. They should be cooking and doing laundry, and they should be helping. Like, you should be putting yourself out of job as fast as possible, and your children should be doing most of the work. My mother did that for us. We're all very independent children, 7 of us. And I'm a big fan of it as well. Your children should be able to run your household whether you're there or not. And once you get this rhythm going, your children will stick to this rhythm even if you go out of town for a week. They will continue this rhythm because it's what makes them happy. It's their bodies just automatically go here. Brittany says, in the north, you have the natural winter with the snow that gives that schedule. How does the south, where it's just chilly in the winter, but still can go outside? Yeah, it's kind of the same. I think our bodies, the way the world turns, right, and the way the seasons go, pull on our bodies. We have months where we just want to sit and cuddle and read, and we have months where we want to be out and active, and I think, and that's intentional, and I think the more you enjoy that, the better, and it doesn't matter where you live in the world. Of course, if you're on the southern hemisphere, this is going to be the opposite, but it's the same thing. Oh, there you go. South does it opposite, inside in summer, out at winter. You lost volume. Is that me or you, Britt? Brita. Sorry, I know that's a little inside joke now for Britta and I, because I keep wanting to like say it differently than the way it's said. Is that everybody or is that just her? Let me know. Okay, keep commenting. Yay. Yes. Okay. AC in the summer. South or California. I grew up California, and yeah, winter we were out and about. Summer we were locked up because it was 120 degrees. So, you go with that flow, whatever that works. And the idea is that you're not fighting it. This is why I hate the school schedule, public school schedule, because it doesn't take into consideration sleep. It doesn't take into consideration hot or cold. It doesn't take into consideration what our bodies naturally do. So what you really want to do here is learn to follow the natural rhythms, not schedule. Notice the difference there, rhythms of your body and what it wants to do. And as you're homeschooling and listening to this more and more and more, you'll discover that this is more natural. You'll be happier, will be less stressed the more you follow those natural rhythms. Now, all of this, don't worry, all of this is written down in our homeschool roadmap. The homeschool roadmap has multiple schedules in there for you guys, okay? It has, depending on your styles, and I'll show you in there, everything from hour by hour to this rhythm. I've also found that the rhythm of my menstrual cycle is also included in this. So the 2 weeks after my menstrual cycle has begun, I'm like, gung ho, let's do this. I got energy. But the 2 weeks before, I tend to go dip in energy levels. And so we do more reading, more educational movies. During the days where I am down and out because I'm cramping and grumpy, we just educational movie it, and that's okay. Okay, make sure you're paying attention to your menstrual cycle, because if you're trying to push through on the weeks or days where your menstrual cycle's off, everybody's miserable. So go, it's menstrual, it's grumpy day. Cool. We turn on what we call, it's called Living Scripture. It is a Christian app, like a Disney Plus or a Netflix. It's called Living Scripture. It's like $100 a year. We turn that on because you can get a lot of history and science. It has so many they have a whole homeschool section that we love. And we spend a lot of time on there because it's totally kid friendly. And I don't have to worry about what my kids are watching. We use that for sick days. We use that for mommy's down days. We use that for when we just can't day. So try that one out. All right, we got a winner. Sonia Lane, congratulations. You have won 1 year of the our social club. I keep saying network, it's club. Our social club, which means your children get to play in our Minecraft group. It means they can come into the book club. It means they're invited into all of our little programs going on in there, and it's totally free to you. That's a $300 value. So congratulations to you. I thought, were you not in there already? You've been with us for a while. How are you not in there already? Anyway, okay. So I promise to keep this short. I'm already 5 minutes over. Do you guys have any other questions? Sonia, don't worry. We'll send you a message to get you that access. Okay. Questions. Do we have any questions about this schedule? How do you feel about this schedule? Is this something you're already doing, or is this something that might be a little new to you? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear where you're at. Oh, Sonia says, I was going to ask, maybe choose someone else. I don't know. Oh, see, Lizzie says it's similar to our schedule. See, I'm not really surprised. This is not news to someone who's been homeschooling for a while. It took me a few years to do this because I kept thinking I had to set times and go by, it's 8 o'clock, we're going to do this. It's 9 o'clock, we're going to do this. And I discovered that those times never worked because my children were never in that headspace. But by going by your rhythms, your children will naturally be put in the headspace they need to be in for the next phase. Both. There you go, Sonia. You just got Heather says to gift it to one of your homeschool friends. How does that feel? Go gift that to someone you know. And if you don't have someone to give it to, get back to us and we'll see what we need to do. But yeah, there you go. You just got a birthday present to a mama somewhere. Okay, guys, tomorrow Lori's going live. We're gonna have Lori here tomorrow, so she's gonna talk to you about the social network things that she does, pre-K stuff going on. Tomorrow is about exactly the what we use. Okay, that's why Lori's coming on tomorrow. She's going to show you how to use a lot of things she's got going on. She is our pre-K expert. So if you have pre-K kids, she's going to come in and help you with that. We're going to also show you exactly what we're using for the math, the reading, the writing, the science. We're going to go into that so that you can, and tell you why we use these things. It's not just about picking a curriculum. It's about the curriculums we've picked that work, that get your children inspired to do more. And that's what we will show you tomorrow. But come and so you can meet Lori, and we'll see if Trish wants to come in tomorrow. I'm not sure. I haven't asked her yet. So we'll go see if you want to meet her. And then, yeah, and pop in your questions. We're here all day inside Mighty Networks and love to answer any questions you have. In the meantime, you guys have a beautiful day. We will get all of these to you. Watch your emails. We will send you the PDFs and everything tomorrow when it's all over. And we're going to have a little code for you as well. So hint, hint, nudge, nudge, you do not want to miss tomorrow. Okay, have a beautiful day. We'll see you tomorrow morning bright and early. And have a beautiful day. Talk to you later. Maybe. Heather's sending me a message. Sometimes it's a whole wait, and I'm just making sure. We good, Heather, before I sign off here? Okay. Yes. Okay. I think we're good. Have a beautiful day. Bye, guys.